Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. It's our Friday edition, and I'm proud to say I have Adib Khaldi from Simple Picks with us today. How's it going, Adib?
Good, David. Thanks so much for having me again.
I'll always love having you on here. Um, you were just mentioning you were worried about how politics may play out on some things. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Just before we went live, I was saying, I'm not too sure about what's going to happen with the political landscape with the Biden Trump election, and of course, the green policy was enacted more around, if you recall, Biden's presidency, where a lot of the EVs were starting to be pushed, a lot of mining was starting to be kicked out, and coal was also being kicked out. The whole green energy and
Right.
ESG, etc. I would be surprised to see what that policy would look like if Trump was to come back into office.
It would certainly be different, I think. One of
Yeah.
the things that I talk about a lot on our other episodes is the fact that Republican governors have benefited substantially from Biden's policies. Now, it's specific states, it's mainly Georgia, I think both Carolinas, but it's a lot of your southern states have these right to work laws that are somewhat anti-union. And
Hmm.
what's happened is as these companies that are making batteries and electric vehicles have taken advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a terrible name because it's the opposite. But anyways, it's created jobs and job growth all throughout those states. And so I don't know. I really don't think that green energy and everything should be as the big of a deal. But what happened was when a certain president, a couple spots back, had some green energy pushes. I'm not going to name who it was. He had this green energy company in Nevada that I'm not going to name that was also owned by a great deal by the son of the speaker or the leader of the Senate. And I'm not going to name who that was either because we're not going to really talk politics. That
Yeah.
company went bankrupt and it really pissed a lot of Republicans off. And it really, because it was very, it seemed very corrupt. And you'll hear me say this, I don't think there's such a thing as an ethical politician. Okay.
Never.
And I don't mean this in a bad way. A lot of them are great people before they become politicians. And then when they get into the government, they realize they have to sell their soul to the devil to get anything done. But it's really hard not to take all that money. I see stuff people talk about, did somebody bribe or whatever. To be an ambassador for the United States to another country, you have to contribute something like 250,000 to maybe $1 million to the president's campaign to get appointed to one of those positions.
Right.
So
It's
those
all money.
positions
It's all
are bought.
theatrics and
Right,
money.
right. And I'm not convinced that either. I have a party I like more than the other, but I'm not convinced that the one that I usually vote for really has people's best interests at heart either. I just think that they're a little
Both on
less
the same side.
bad than the other one.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
both on the same side.
And it's really funny in that the one person, RFK, that is, he's not going to get elected, but I think he probably represents more things that I'm in tune with.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
Than either of the other candidates.
I seen RFK in Denver actually speak at a crypto conference,
Hmm.
and he was just trying to win the support, obviously, of the crypto supporters. But he had some pretty very opinionated pieces on government, on taxation, on securitization of certain assets and cryptocurrencies. Um, you know, Pretty good stuff for the people, right?
Hmm.
But national support for RFK versus the Biden versus Trump is just
Yeah.
it's not even comparable. So it's a lot of the times just take it with a grain of salt. But you know, he was saying he went up against the CIA and the FBI and all these government organizations like hundreds of times. And that's just kind of something that shows you that there's a lot of internal battles coming out within the United States as opposed to external. I can't really speak much more on the topic. I just look at the charts and make sense of it money wise and how we can take advantage of these opportunities. That's really where.
Now, and for our listeners who don't know Adib well, Adib's not even a U.S. He's not even from the United States. So while he does currently live in the U.S., he's a Canadian,
Yeah.
and so he looks at our politics, through a slightly different lens, and it's more about how it affects his stock trading, on the
Well,
economic
the
side.
U.S. politics really affect the whole world.
Right,
Everybody knows who the U.S. presidents are. Hardly anybody knows who any of the other presidents of the other countries are. You'll never hear somebody say, around election time for a country even as big as China or Canada or Europe, like Russia or whatever, you don't see people debate, oh, which side are you on? But globally, when the U.S.
right,
elections happen, it's like, oh, who are you, Biden or Trump? It's like in Zimbabwe, they're talking about it. You know what I mean? It's funny.
right.
So it's
No,
just
I get it.
it's a global impact, and anything that does a global impact, of course, it's going to move the money, and that's what I'm after: the financial instruments and how they move and react to bias and news, and we take advantage of that, hopefully, in a smart way.
Well, I'm hearing from people in the tech sector that jobs are slowing down in IT, even though we have this push into AI, but AI is a little more focused. And there seems to be some issues with job security in the IT space in the United States right now. And that's really kind of unusual. And then we get this report this morning, the US labor market cooled off in April, you know. So maybe, we keep hoping for more rate cuts. If there's a rate cut, stock market,
Absolutely.
zooms, right? We know this.
Absolutely.
This isn't rocket
Well, they
science.
confirmed there's no more rate hikes.
Yes.
Now they need to manage inflation before they do rate cuts. I don't think there's going to be any rate cuts this June or July. I think that's when the set date is for.
Hmm.
But I could be wrong. I just don't see the market being, I guess, cool enough for us to do that.
No, I get it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our stocks. Let's just start out with SPY to start with, just to kind of get warmed up.
Sure.
And I've seen you shorting SPY in the Discord group, um,
Um,
when I'm paying attention.
yes. I mean, sorry, I'm not even prepared, David.
You're okay. You're okay. We're at
Yeah, I mean,
511 right now.
I've had a short bias since coming on your show about a month
Hmm.
ago. So I think we
Yeah.
came on your show April 2nd, and I had put a short call bias on the S&P 500. It's done very well since then. Probably did like 200 points to start for people. If you shorted it again near 510 or 515, you would have got another 150 points out of it. So the short bias has won so far. The markets are up today. I think it's more so of like a retaliationary candle. The way I like to call it is like it's an inside technical day or week rather. So it's really just like a lot of the prices snapping back to their mean to where they were before the big drop. They're still down. The S&P is still down about 100 points since where we entered short, even at today, where it's pumped like about 50 points. So all in all, tell me if you can see that.
Yes.
Yeah. So all in all, I mean, this candle here on the week, went as far down as 499 or 5,000 on the S&P 500 or 5,000 on the SPY. And it's reversed, as you can see here. Obviously, we had FOMC meeting where
Hmm.
Powell was a little bit more, I guess, dovish in a way, indicating that there's no more rate hikes. That would probably signal to why the market has kind of been bought up, in my opinion. But I think it's just kind of like, as I said, it's a retaliationary reversion here to the mean, which a lot of the trading that's happened over a 1, 2, 3, 4 week period was just near that 520 mark. I think this whole zone right here, as I've noted out before, is where people want to start building their short positions. As I've mentioned again over a month ago, this is the short zone. That's just what I'm seeing. But obviously, like the market's irrational. It can stay irrational longer than what they say. The individual can stay solvent. So obviously, we saw the break and the major move be cemented here when we literally got on your show and started shorting the market. I'm not really interested in doing anything right now on the S&P. I'm happy to let it float back up here to my short target and then reevaluate. So right now, I think it's just an inside candle. It's probably just going to float in place here in this zone. and see some stocks adjust or readjust. But
So each time
very,
it
very
hits five,
soon, we're going to have to make a move here, David. And
so
yeah,
so when it breaks 520 is when you start looking to enter a short right now.
when it hits 520, 519, 521, 522, I mean, I'll short this all the way up to the top of this channel here, so just a little above this top candle, so all the way to 525, 527. I would be happy to short up until there. I think I'd have a much better outcome than to be long on such an overextension. I mean, since October of this year, which, by the way, we also called on our public channels, it's been on a tear. As you can see, the S&P has been on an absolute tear. It's gained well over 35% since then, or 30% since then. So it's time for some cool off. And I think this is where the market's going to start, kind of tapping into these upper fib levels here, which is, again, reverting to the mean, as I said, where things were trading, and then kind of find itself back down. So, more so we're in a bearish stance right now. Obviously, that can change. Fundamental news and being near all-time highs on the S&P. I mean, this is the highest it's ever been. Most certainly could prove to be, give us a little bit more of a higher zone before cooling off. But I think this is a soft landing, is what they like to call it in the U.S. market and the Fed. And I think we're going to have a soft landing.
Okay, cool. I was going to ask you, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but it's not really. So last week we talked a little bit about charging station stocks, and we're not going to get into charging station stocks today. I keep trying to review them. My issue with it looks like eventually NACS, which is the Tesla standard, and Tesla is the only company that has a charging network that makes money.
Yeah.
Nobody else makes money. And now what's happening is and the other one, main standard in the United States, is called CCS. And so what's happening is a lot of your companies now are adopting they're striking deals with Tesla to have their cars run on the NACS Tesla supercharger network. The Tesla supercharger network has about a 98% uptime, meaning that only 1 out of 50 people goes to attempt a charge and it fails. And the others have you have about a 1 in 5 chance of going. And imagine you're on a road trip with an EV and you experience this. And this is what's happened a lot. You see a lot of these horror stories of somebody saying, "Hey, I traveled, the chargers didn't work, and here I am out in the middle of nowhere, and I've got nowhere to charge up." Of course, they could just plug into, they could plug into 110 for a week. Charge up their, big battery. But I'm just saying, and so at the moment, now I know people who make chargers and sell them for home use, and ChargePoint does do that, and they're the biggest one in that field. I still don't like them as I just don't see anybody in that space being good. But I wanted to talk our next stock.
Oh, big rebound this week.
What's that?
Okay, yeah, just
they're green today.
ChargePoint is up 22% this week. So I guess the time you started looking at them was the right time. I might have said something like they're looking like a bottom. I don't know what I said about them, but I
just am not bullish. I mean, you and I get hit by people who want to raise money to start a charging business. And I'm kind of like, why? Nobody makes money. I mean, I've heard of people who own a few chargers. Like I know somebody who has like a dozen chargers and he makes money on them. Okay. But that's really random. Okay, it's not like he's got thousands of chargers deployed. He's got a few key spots that he's got like a vending machine route.
Yeah, I know guys that like charge batteries up for industrial and a bunch of other uses, and then they just go around and sell the energy. I don't know how they do it, but they sell the energy off the batteries, and that's one of their business models. I mean, couldn't be me, but I mean, hey, it's too saturated.
I'm just saying, I'm really big on the EV market and growing the space. I'm not real bullish on that. Now, let's go ahead though. Let's talk about NRGV. We have not discussed this on the show before. It may just be a garbage stock. The reason I want to talk about it was because, and this is only $1.25. Okay, this company just replaced a coal-fired power plant in Nevada, And so what it is, they've got these big battery farms that are taking essentially the same thing as car batteries, or EV batteries, and they're storing energy that's coming in from wind and solar, which, where I live in Nebraska, we have a nuclear power plant that's shut down because we can't produce nuclear power as cheaply as we can produce wind and solar.
Interesting.
Okay, well, I shouldn't really say solar. We don't have a lot of solar here. I have solar, but we don't really have solar farms here. But we do have massive wind projects all over Nebraska and Iowa. And so it's very interesting that you would think that nuclear would be damn near free, right? After, because you have that cost of building the facility, but it costs so much to provide safety and maintenance to those facilities that it ends up being more expensive per kilowatt hour to produce.
Mm.
Any,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I don't know any history on this. On this
yeah, I
one.
mean, NRVG, NRGV looks like it definitely lost its early like IPO level status, because it looks like here it was a SPAC. Usually, when something's trading around $10 and then somebody reverses onto them, that's the typical kind of structure. So it looks like this was a SPAC. So somebody acquired into this probably back in 2021 when the hype was big for SPACs and everybody was making Wi-Fi money off of that. Clearly, like, they've destroyed shareholder value since then. This is the lowest it's ever been, much like any other stocks like Lucids and Rivians and the you name it's in the EV world. This is more so with actual power plants and energy as well. So it's a little bit more differentiated. My first take on this, David, is it's a $183 million market cap. Just off that get-go, I'm not really interested. Anything sub like 500 million, it's just too small and not really tradable well. And you got to more so invest in it than trade it. You can trade it, obviously, but it's just a dirty like trade. It's just not like, it's going to move slow, and you're gonna have to be dependent on a lot of catalysts. So, for example, here their earnings are coming up on the 8th of May. I think what's going to happen with this stock is they're just going to trend up towards their earnings. But I don't like this rejection here today. This kind of puts a little coffin in its up trend here. But it's kind of reverting back up to its moving averages. The lower fib levels have held, but obviously these are just getting constructed because there's no lower point for us to look back from. I think this stock will probably trend higher, in my opinion, on just a shorter time frame. But it's probably all leading up towards the earnings, and it's going to really depend on the earnings. And if you see, they even on the earnings that they beat in, they were barely moving. Like, the stock would beat its earnings report and it would barely move. But even near its miss reports, it's having slight movement. Some of it's actually not too negative. So based on looking at a naked chart with very basic technicals here, based on looking at their last earnings report and what that did for the stock in terms of movement, I think it's going to be a positive one here, David. So I would say, whereas I would like to buy the stock at around $1 or $1.10, this isn't too bad of a spot to probably enter earnings, and you can probably get yourself 20-30% out of this, I think. But I'm not interested personally.
I look there how it jumped from on 418. It was at $1.04, and it's up almost 20% from then. And anyways, this was just kind of interesting. The only reason I wanted to bring it up was just because I had covered it on one of the other episodes, and I was looking. It's on the New York Stock Exchange. It seems like something that could be an up and comer if they're replacing more of these coal-fired power plants. Does it show? Do we get any earnings? I don't know what
earnings,
what were their last earnings? Oh, their next earnings date is May 8th, so it's in 5 days.
Sir. Yeah, their last earnings, they actually missed on their revenue by about 17.5%, which is quite big. It's $25 million. And they had a surprise, obviously, on their earnings. Yeah, which that's what reflected off of that miss, which was a negative 30% on what they were expecting. So quite the drop last earnings. But as I say, Let's see the effect here. So that was the day on the 12th of March. So the 12th of March, it got pretty sold off pretty bad. Yeah, it pretty much put the new downtrend in on their last earnings because they missed so badly. So
So it
it was really
looks like we're
starting
getting.
a little base here. Yeah.
So maybe this jump here was based on that news that was about the Nevada situation, and
That's absolutely
it's leading
most
up into
definitely.
earnings. Maybe people are hoping to get to see something better, but that
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
have
mean
brought a whole lot
it
of new earnings.
needs to revert. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
let's move
absolutely.
on. Yeah, let's move on to I added Neo today. I realize it's a Chinese stock, but a lot of people trade Neo.
Hey, Neo's looking great. What a clear uptrend off that $4. Nothing negative that I can say. The play is
We
over.
covered it a couple months ago.
I think we did. I don't remember what I might have said.
Yeah, it
Let's
might
go
have been
back
all the way
here.
back in December for all I know.
I was, yeah, back in January. Look, as you can see, I was very confused, but I think I told you that it's very toppy and that it's probably going to go down as opposed to going up. But I usually when I do something like this, I'm probably conflicted. I probably just didn't even give you a word, what I think
Yeah,
on it. Would have had a better picture just around here, the 13th of March, had we looked at it again, where the downtrend got kind of established off of that initial little gap down here in rejection. So I couldn't even make it back up here to reject. And I think I was probably thinking this was where I would short the stock at. It probably didn't make it up there. It got as high as like 630, not as high as 7. And we got pummeled all the way back down to 360. So in a 3-month period, almost lost 50% of value. And here it is, up to the mean, as a lot of stocks do. Many things are valleys and peaks. That's how they trade in the stock market. So, yeah, I think this uptrend is pretty cemented, and Neo looks pretty good, man. It looks really good to reclaim, back up to $7 and maybe even beyond. So, I'm quite
maybe.
bullish on Neo, to be honest with you.
All right, we might keep
Maybe I will
covering
make a
Neo
play.
for a bit.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah. Well,
it's up 22% this week, so it's just a little bit too much for me. But
mhm.
this is very interesting here. Like whenever I see that something has kind of capitulated, a lot of volume have come in. It looks like some news occurred today as well, some catalysts as well. That helps bring things back again to the mean. I'm a very, very disciplined type of trader that I just use history to predict the future if that opportunity is given. Well, my future prediction here is that we start trading in this zone here. That was kind of like it was a zone of confusion. And then once the move got put in, the capitulation has happened. Now we're getting more increasing bullish volume. So in my opinion, I would say that probably we will get back into this zone. So anything around $7 or up to $8 and a half, you can probably expect to see in the next coming months, given that Neo does their job and performs without any hiccups that are fundamental hiccups that could potentially like rocket the stock. So, David, I'll please start covering Neo myself and add it here to the list, and potentially would be looking to make a play on it because I always do that. If I say it and mention it and I like it, usually I'll play it.
All right. Yeah, it's one we hadn't covered for a while, but you and I are always a little leery about the Chinese because the currency
Yeah,
manipulation and different things the Chinese government does
everything.
to make sure they maintain exports.
Yes, it's
And
very difficult dealing with the Chinese companies, especially with their reporting.
give me a second. All right, so let's move on. Oh, let's briefly talk about Dell real quick. See if there's any change on Dell.
Hey, keeping up with the uptrend here, doing very well. I think last week it was down to 113 or 117, I think, when you and I were covering it. So great recovery this week. It's up, about not 1.5%, 2%. Last week it was up about 9%. Um, I honestly don't have anything to say about Dell. This is neither a long nor a short for me right now. I think it's a little overextended, but the uptrend
Okay.
is very nice. And I've mentioned this gap many, many times and kind of put this line in the sand. So we're going to keep moving this line in the sand just a little bit higher every time because this gap is being supported, as you can see here, David. So this is very healthy for Dell. The fact that it even gapped up again just above here where it kind of filled some of the down on the initial upward move. This is very good. This is like a pretty good move. Obviously, this could be a fake out and likely, like, I think the market's a short right now. So likely, Dell probably should come back down to near this line in the sand before continuing higher. But if it does keep going more, kudos to the Dell bulls. I personally it's too overextended, too near its all-time highs for me to enter here.
Great. Okay,
but I'm not bearish.
I understand.
It's just overextended.
I like I said before, I started covering it because we also cover SMCI and we cover NVIDIA, and it seems I'm just kind of curious. Why don't we go ahead and let's do SMCI and then NVIDIA, and just see how they kind of compare to the Dell charts. Let's do SMCI first.
Well, SMCI, SCI, as you can see, we've put in a short initially at around 1100. That was right around here. That proved to be true. So that's correct. Then I think I told you I'd like to see it come back up and touch 1,000 and get rejected. That happened, and that was correct. And now we are all the way down to 783. So my price target's very close on this one. Somewhere around the 600. It did go as low as 699, or looks like 680. It went as low as 680. So we're very close to our target here, David. And I'd say that was a successful call out, a successful short. I think anywhere around the 600 range or 650 is where we're going to get bought up. So seems like the bulls did come back here and here and here again. More so increasing bearish volume. So again, I'm still bearish on the stock. I expect it to probably reject again off of somewhere around the 800s. So yeah, I mean, as a trend, what we announced, Joe, has come true on this. That's as far as I can go. 1100 short was right. The $880 to $1,000 short was correct. Price target 600. It came as close as to, like I said, 671 on our target here, and we started covering it all the way back here before this down move even happened. So very proud of the prediction. I probably will not initiate anything on this right now. The plays again are over. So we just have to look at it again in the next coming weeks to see if the 600 does get achieved before we can flip to a long, or we're going to continue picking it off of short areas here and riding it to the downside. So it's pretty simple on this stock.
All right. I was just going to say, we have hundreds of people watching across all the different social medias we're on. And if you guys have a stock that's in the EV space, green energy, or AI, and you'd like to see us discuss it, please put it in the chat. We'd be happy to talk about it. Let's go ahead and let's look and see how similar. So, though, when you look at this chart, though, it does look a little bit, the Dell is still pretty similar, isn't it? It's been kind of in the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these bigger stocks, David, that are in the billions of dollars are very mimicry of the S&P and the larger indexes like the Nasdaq and Dow Jones. Obviously, when fund managers are moving, hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions of dollars out of these indexes, these things all have an effect on probably stocks that are included in those indexes, right? So.
Right.
That's the simple effect of it. Is like when you look at for example, the biggest one that would be the same, and I know we're going to jump to that one next, is Nvidia. Nvidia looks exactly like the S&P 500. It's almost identical. Why? Well, it's $2 trillion. It's
it's a big bulk of it.
It's a big bulk
right.
of it,
I get it.
So that's really the take there. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to Nvidia.
So definitely has done what I would like to see out of it. If you recall, look, on your last show, which was the 26th of April, we said continue to short NVIDIA around $900. So again, this last week, NVIDIA is also up about 1.5 points. The week before this, it's up 15 points or 15%. But the week before that, it was down about 15% as well. So we're seeing that it's just kind of like, recovering its losses in a way, much like I said with the S&P being an inside week, just kind of reverting to the mean here before we do our move to the next point. So why am I bearish? I'm just seeing that these channels are being topped here. This was our initial short call right around here back in March when you asked me about it. I said this is where we short it. Anybody who did short it at the 900 or 950 up to 950 made money. You took it from 950 all the way
Oh
down
yeah.
to 750. It's a big move. Again, that's like almost 20%. And then you would have watched it come right back up. So what do you naturally do to stick by your same bias is you reload. Why would I not reload on a day like today? Well, let's let the candle finish itself. Let's see what next week brings. And as long as these zones all hold, then yes, excuse me, you begin making your short positions. There's no reason for anybody to want to buy against the trend. So if this week the trend is green and everything is moving back higher, reverting to the mean, even though it's not a great green, it's still giving those gains to revert back. You don't want to go against the grain. You don't want to really go against the trend. But as soon as you see that those things are starting to opportunize for you, where you can start to pick off of that trend being weak, that's when you enter those shorts. And as you can see, it perfectly played out to what our thought process has been. So next week, hopefully, we begin to start doing some of those shorts around 900.
Okay, let's move on into, and we'll come back to some AI stocks, but let's move over to Tesla.
Tesla bulls are happy this week. So
Depends on the
Tesla,
day, right?
yeah. I mean, look, man, last week, I think you remember I was starting to lose hope in Tesla because I told you that it broke out of outside my lines. And this was long-term support for the downtrend on Tesla here to get bought back up. I had issued a warning, but also I had issued a major buy zone around this area many times. I said anywhere between 140, I think I said, or 150 to 160 was a buy zone. And then I reiterated and I said, okay, anywhere between 140 and 150 is now a buy zone. As you can see, it went to as low as 139 or 140. I didn't buy. Why? Because this violated my my chart. This made it invalidated based on my trading abilities and the way that I look at things. So I didn't enter. But what did they have to do? Despite them missing their earnings, they still were bought up. Why? Because Mr. Elon Musk pulled a cat out of the hat and had to give bullish guidance so the stock survives. And as you can see, the technicals didn't make a play in here. The fundamentals made a play in here. We got a monster move up. Tesla moves up 15% after giving up 14%, then moves up another like 12% to top it all off up to $200. So where do I see Tesla being right now? I think it did already revert to its mean, as I've used this word a lot this time. And I think that it's definitely a buy anywhere above 150 to, between 150 to 160. I would say it's a buy. Anything above there, you just want to hold your shares and watch it continue upwards. I'll still tell you, David, like we covered Tesla on your show at $260 and we announced that it was a short call at $260. And I'm sure you remember. So
Right.
you do want to follow our chart here because we've caught every single move on Tesla accurately. So if you continue to follow my chart, well, you just want to kind of watch it here. You want to start kind of selling. If you're long here, I don't have a position. You want to start selling just at this downwards resistance wedge, which is going to probably top out at around 215 or 220. So until then, it's got a better chance of going higher than it has a chance of reversing back down to this 140. I think the bottom is really in, but I could obviously be mistaken. And at this time, I don't have a position in Tesla. I have some shares that are very long-term positions, but they're not related to this sequence here in the last 6 months.
So, what's interesting, Tesla seems to follow what is Musk doing today. The stock. If people are happy with what he's doing today, they're happy. If they don't like what he's doing today, they're unhappy. And it's really funny how Musk-centric this stock is. It doesn't really matter. Anything that seems like it could be bad news. I get some of the funniest comments about, EV sales are down and all this, and the funny thing is, it was just Tesla. Tesla dropped their sales a little bit for that one quarter, and the
That's
first
my
time in
favorite.
4 years they didn't do as well as they thought. And man, people are like, the sky's falling. And then, but then it was funny because like the next 10 EV sellers in the United States all did better. And so they all obviously took a little bit of market share from Tesla for a
Yeah,
change. And
that's right.
that
But it's
was
a
kind of
smaller number.
unusual. All
Yeah.
right, let's go ahead and look at Rivian. See what kind of dumpster fire we
Hey,
got here today.
Rivian's up. Rivian. Like I said,
Nice.
I mean, I did have those calls. They are now probably zero. What are we today? Oh, May 3rd. So this didn't work out. So we've probably given, I don't know, David, maybe
Mhm.
10 call outs on your show. This is, I would say confidently, this is the first one that might have not worked. But it was announced as a lottery play, like a lotto, because it was very cheap of a call to buy to begin with.
Mhm.
So I am going to say this one did miss. So this one, and again, I love to be transparent. So missed 5/3/2024, and we're gonna put this on the side here, so it'll always be there, so we can remember. But Rivian's up, a good solid 10.5% this week. Last week it was up 5%. So if you recall myself kind of screaming the bottom, there you go. That I think that's held. Like I mentioned a few times that it's playing some games, but I think this is honestly going to hold as a bottom, and likely we are going to see $12 to $14. It's just I was a little bit early, and it might be towards the end of May, not the start of May. I thought it would lead up to the earnings call, which is on the 7th of this month, but it seems like it could be a catalyst at day that brings it back up to $12. I don't know. I'm not really interested down here because my play has been invalidated. So I usually just watch if my things don't go my way based on the time period that I'm looking at. Quite a big gap for Rivian to fill all the way up to $15. So as of right now, I mean, this is just a good inside candle. The bottom got bought out. There's no wick on this monthly candle, meaning, I mean, as far as we go for the last 3 days, it's just been all buying, which is pretty good. That means that they're starting the month very strong, and they brought it up again 12.5% since then in the last 2 days, or 3 days. So Rivian, I'm just going to hold a cautionary position here, but I would say I'm leaning more towards the bullish side, and I still expect $12 out of Rivian. So around $12, probably mid end of May.
That'd be a pretty sizable increase. Be a nice take.
Yeah, that'll be about a 25% rise, depending on the day and time. So,
All right.
I
When
mean,
you're
I'm
good.
just not going to action anything on it right now. Yeah, it's moved up too much for me this week. So, like to see it maybe continue,
All right.
but not going to make a position.
Let's go ahead and take a look at Lucid today. Not going to get into too much about why I like some of these. I think
it rebound. I think it rebounded. Look at that. Here we go. Here we go. You see what we did last week on Lucid?
Mhm.
It's following it.
Yep, it's following the
So that's
trend.
all I could say. I am bullish on Lucid. I will keep, yep, along the trend. We said buy Lucid $2 to $3. Timeline 1 to 6 month. Price target 46. So be looking at double your position. Hopefully on good news. The lowest it's ever hit was last week, where I told you I am still buying, and that was $2.31. And here we are today. We hit as high as $2.90 this week. This whole week it is up 13%. Very, very healthy. I know my long-term portfolio is feeling a lot better right now, and I'm going to continue to hold this. And anywhere up to $3, I'll continue to buy. Above $3, I'll just hold my position. So, congrats to all the Lucid supporters and bulls. I will disclaimer: I am still long myself, so I will disclaimer. I am long, and my entry was like around $2.60.
Okay, good. Let's see what we've got
And I think I
next.
did that back in, yeah, I think I did that back in around like here, end of March. I think I did it somewhere around the end of March. So I'm just gonna say mid March. Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump back over to an AI stock. We're going to go to ISRG. We've been following this one for a couple months.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. It's very much so holding off of this area of support that I had mentioned. As you can see, there's been one tap, two tap, three taps all around the 365, 370 zone, and it's gone up. So, I'll keep my same bias on ISRG. I think it's a buy between 265 and 365. Obviously, like that's a high zone, but that's really where you want to like start building your position for a long term. The stock isn't giving anybody a chance to get in. Clearly, it's in 369, 370, 364, 363. It's just really not giving many people a chance to get in. And that's the whole point of a bullish stock. You want to buy it up here where it's bullish, you're going to have to pay the premium. And I mean, look, this is a beautiful, beautiful like tap on the bottom side, guys, here. I think it'll continue going higher. Unfortunately, at this time, I would not initiate a position on this myself for anybody, given just it's near its all-time highs. It's only $20 away, which is 5% from its all-time highs. I don't like to buy anything near its all-time highs. I'm sure I've made that very clear. So until it comes to my like near buy zone, anywhere in this area right here, I would buy. Anywhere on this area here, I would just watch. I don't really want to short a strong stock either. So there's just nothing here to be done unless you're building a long-term position.
Okay, let's go ahead and let's look at AI, or it's technically C3.
Well, we did. Yeah, C3. Well, we did really good on AI. We made a call on your show. I just clipped it for my channel, I think a couple of weeks ago. So it was around $20. And I said, David, this is the time to buy. We did that. We put our money where our mouth was. We bought the, I don't know, I put it somewhere. There it is. We bought the April 19, long between $20 to $26, stop loss $18. Take the $24 call option 2-3 weeks out. We did exactly that, David, but instead of the 24, we took the $25 call. It was a little bit cheaper. And as I mentioned on your show, it's gone up for 200% gain. So that is a very successful call. So success, 200% gain. And that is live on our free Discords and channels or Twitter. You can see it. I think, I'm not sure if I posted it there. But we did really well on AI. So where do I see AI continuing? I think AI might want to cool down just a little bit here. Honestly, like I love this breakout here above this resistance. Like AI is probably going to bulldoze up to $27, and kudos to all the bulls, guys. So I really like it. I may just initiate another play. Maybe stay tuned and follow our free services, and you can see if we make a play on it at the time. Again, this week everything is overextended for me, so we took profits on AI, I think on Monday or Tuesday or something, or last week we did. So we did really well. We're very happy with the play, and I expect AI to go back up to $27 to $28. So I'll even reiterate on this log. So May 3, long target 27, 28, bullish. So nothing to be bearish about here.
All right, that was our last AI stock. Let's, oh, my dogs want to hear us discuss Bitcoin.
Bitcoin? Oh boy, that's a big one. So
they're barking for Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, one of our very strong traders in our community actually went short on Bitcoin at around 63 or 64,000. I believe he took it all the way down to 57 or 50, yeah, 57. Then he flipped long, and he's actually sitting in profits right now. So maybe I ought to ask him what his thesis is. Looks like he's covering Bitcoin a lot better than me right now. I haven't really participated since 63,000 actually hit like a month and a half ago. I haven't even participated since then, to be honest with you. I sold a lot of my holdings. Now, based on his outtake, he still thinks that I think this is a long play. So, looking at a weekly chart, we can see that clearly all the fibs on the downside, where a lot of these like major buyers want to shake out like all the holders in crypto, because crypto is a different beast. It's a lot different than like stocks. Stocks are much more manipulated. Crypto is not. It's more like lifetime manipulation. It's not like, hey, the insiders all know the news and the market makers and the institutions all move towards that section. It's like, no, it's like crypto. A lot of the times, randomly on one exchange, you can get an inflow of like so many different Bitcoins, and then everybody gets spooked out because, oh my God, why did people put their money on an exchange? They're about to sell. So people get spooked, and there's so many games that happen just based off supply and demand. So looking at the chart, very healthy. I love the recovery here. I think it's an excellent recovery. I think we're going to probably go back down and retest 59,000 on Bitcoin. But then we're going to continue ascending higher. In my opinion, I don't see it going down. The chart is just too strong right now. And it's above all of its demand zones. It looks good, man. I mean, honestly, it may hit 53. It may hit 59. But I am a bull. Very rare will you see that I am a bull on something that's near its all-time high. I'm telling you, on Bitcoin, I love it. I think it's going to continue going higher. The market's not going to stop throughout the summertime.
All right. So, and our last ticker for today will be ETH.
Same story with ETH. That wick down was just testing again the uptrend of buyers. It's probably liquidating all the latecomers that have bought all the way up here. If you bought at $4,000 thinking, hey, this is gonna moon, you're down over 25%, 30%. So you're probably capitulating down here. You're probably rethinking this whole crypto thing to yourself. You're probably saying, oh my God, why did I buy up here and now I have to hold the bag for another 2 years? That's usually like the problems that happen with crypto, and they want you to think this way because that's how you sell your tokens and coins back to the market, and they buy them from you for $30 cheaper or 30% cheaper. So it's a psychology game with crypto. I'm bullish on Bitcoin more than I am on Ethereum, but I'll tell you, like, this is kind of like having that like bottomy effect, especially where yesterday we were as low as like 2,800, and it picked back up now to 31. So I'm just gonna say I am bullish on crypto overall. I have no position right now. I have a long-term position in Ethereum. I don't have a Bitcoin position, nor am I trading it. I'm just building my bags because I feel like Bitcoin is going to run to a higher degree, and you don't want to have leverage. You just want to have exposure to the market. Unfortunately, with leverage, it kills you more than it ever will make you. Because unless you're a professional trader, you're gonna get liquidated most of the time. Like, even if you're at, like, for example, if you took a 3x leverage on Ethereum at $4,000, you're liquidated right now. You just lost all your money. You lost the whole position today or yesterday when it hit 2,800. So definitely is a dangerous game. I don't recommend anybody to use leverage. Just build your bags, buy projects that are going to be successful in the long term, and look at the charts. I mean, when you zoom out, when in doubt, zoom out. And anybody who got it anytime 6 months ago or whatever is sitting golden. And even if you got in 3 years ago, but hopefully not at the top, okay, you're still sitting golden. You're probably higher than most everybody, right? So nothing to be bearish about. But Bitcoin's in a good place, and crypto's in a good place.
Yeah, with cryptos, it's far more than even in stocks. When the crypto starts going down, you're like, is it going to zero? Have people completely given up on this? Is the crypto has the whole crypto industry failed? Everything is going to implode. So,
David, you wouldn't believe it. I talk to so many projects all the time, and you would hear them one week, oh, we're high flying, we'll blah 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 blah, millions of dollars, we're the thing, we're it. Then the next week you check, and unfortunately the market, punishes them, and these guys don't want to take phone calls. They're all depressed. Their whole company doesn't even work anymore for some reason. I mean, like, it's crazy in the crypto world. It changes week over week. So all we can do is just believe in the good projects and do our due diligence. Always do your due diligence, guys. Even on everything I say here, or you might hear from David. He's less reading of a crystal ball. I'm more of a crystal ball. Take it with a grain of salt, guys. The whole idea of us coming in week over week and looking at the last week is to show you the consistency. And if you like this show and you like to tune in every Friday, well, then it becomes a hub for you to be able to see where your next week should maybe look like based on historic results. So that's all we really thrive to do, and happy to have everybody here with us on the show.
Well, and folks, we appreciate y'all watching. That's the end of our show today. And anyways, we'll be back with Adib next Friday. Otherwise, we'll be on with our regular news during the week. Otherwise, folks, have a great day and thanks for watching.
Thank you, everybody.